Hi, welcome back, everybody, at Max's Monday Podcast. I'm your host, Maximus Gomez, and today I just want to talk about the events that unfolded last week with the Derek Chauvin trial, Chauvin, whatever, the officer who killed George Floyd. His trial and the verdict and watching that, as well as the events that happened the day of the trial with Ma'Khia Bryant, um, and talk about that. I guess we'll just jump right into it then. So that day, it was last Tuesday. So it would have been, oh gosh, what's it? It's the 26th. So it would have been the, oh god, why am I blanking so bad? The 19th, 20th, right? So April 20th, when it was last Tuesday. Um, man, I had just gotten back from getting my second shot of the vaccine, which I do advise. I advise all of you to get your vaccine if you haven't done so already. Please make your appointments. I figured a lot of you that watch this are about my age, since we probably know each other to some capacity. So, uh, please do your best to schedule an appointment to get your vaccine. And even, you know, don't even listen to the reports. If you're having doubts of like, well, why should I get it? Everybody's getting it, all right? We'll just get to a point where nobody will have it. Well, that we need so many people to get the vaccine to reach that level of herd immunity, and it's upwards. I mean, people are like, oh, like half the population gets the vaccine, we're good. No, 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 no. I mean, here to get to herd immunity, you need anywhere to between 70 to 90% of a population, and even then, it can fluctuate. Just kind of depending on cases and different things, and even California right now, I think we only have a oh, it was like we've dropped significantly in our infection rates and in the cases that we've received, but it's still very super important to get the vaccine, just to ensure, um, beyond all doubt. Well, not beyond all doubt. I mean, there's still, you know, but you become more ensure that you won't get it, and even if you don't catch it, your body has the necessary tools to combat it correctly. um, and we still, hey, look, we're been a year in the pandemic, and we're still seeing the side effects of coronavirus, and we don't know the lasting effects. Who knows? Who knows? A 6 months from now, a year from now, 10 years down the line, you never know the, you know, what the total effect of the virus really is, and so just to make sure you get it and that your body's ready, just in case you ever do come in contact with it. I do urge that, and we'll get to being closer. And I just want to, again, I was right. I was right. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm very, very few things that I've been wrong about in terms of this pandemic. And one of the things I mentioned was like by the summer, most, if not all of us, will have the vaccine. Like that's just it's just how it goes. I figured they had already started production and everything going on with it. So another score for me. So I hate to always be right. I'm never right. I'm never always right anyways. I'm right about a few things. I can't knock myself on that. But again, I just urge everyone to get the vaccine. If you have doubts, don't worry. I had doubts too. But I'll be I'm going to be the last one to be an anti-vaxxer. I'll tell you what. And you know what? I know I was supposed to get into the trial and everything, but we'll touch on that. I just want to talk. This was the first time in my life that I realized the importance of identity politics. Right? It's that idea that, okay, if we see people in elected offices that look like us, or even act like us, or think like us, if like we can just have some sort of relatability to them, then it boosts overall government participation. Different government programs are more effective. So at first I was like, that's bullshit. Like like just because somebody looks like me doesn't mean I give a fuck. But that's just for me. Oh my god. Oh, whew. Moving all crazy here right now. I'm just trying to be comfortable. but that doesn't, I was like, I don't give a, I had one of those things. It was like, if I see another brown person, another minority or another Hispanic succeed or get elected or whatever, I don't really necessarily feel a type of way about it because of their who they like, their color or their ethnicity or of their race. I'm kind of like, okay, like great. I hope you do a good job because it's too many times that we do elect people that look like us and they fucking suck, or people who claim to be of a certain descent. And like, shout out to fuck you to Ted Cruz and uh, Marco Rubio. I remember I used to call him Ricky Rubio. It's really funny, the basketball player. But I'm talking about Marco Rubio, the senator from Florida. Senator, yeah. Um, so, anyways, and those guys claim to be of Latin descent or Hispanic descent. Big ol' fuck you, sir. Um, anyways, but it was the thing that we're talking about was like, okay, you want people to get vaccinated, so they had all their public officials, all former presidents, all kind of senators, and all these other people get the vaccine, and they show it on a public display, and I was like, a lot of white people, a lot of um, white elected officials getting their vaccine, and I was like, I could see. I'm not. I got it obviously, but I could see how minorities and people who are a little more distrusting of the government and could look at that and go like, how the hell do I know they got their vaccine? First of all, that's like one of the arguments, and like, of course they're gonna show the white guys. They seem like anyway. So it just kind of plays the idea that people do take that really into account. Um, and so I also urge um, my support for a woman and a person of color to be a president. But I also, it's not really talked about, and this is just because of the fragmentation of this said community, of the Hispanic community. Um, they suck. Not they suck, but it's hard for them to unite because they are so diverse. Like when we talk about your Latino populations, like it covers such a wide range of people, or Latinos and Hispanics. You got people from Mexico, from Southern America. You got people from like the Dominican Republic, Cuba, all those places. So it's like it's such a commonly used term for such a broad amount of people, like it's not specific, and so it's so hard for that group of people to unite because there's all kind. I mean, that's it's complete like even the language. Like a person in Mexico who speaks Spanish would speak a different language from someone from one of the other countries who speaks who's also speaks like there's a language, not necessarily a language barrier, but there is a difference in how they speak. um and there's a difference of background and culture, and it's different. And so um you know maybe compared to someone who says they're like African American, for instance, a lot of people who are African American in this country share a very similar history and background. um People from like whites, from you know they share a very similar history and background. I think another group of people that share a very um, similar kind of aspect to Hispanics and Latinos is Asians. Again, it's like you take this one word and you clump it to a bunch of people from way different areas of the world. So it gets a little, like, well, also hashtag stop Asian hate. Anyway, so I just really speaks to, I would love to see a Hispanic slash Latino, however you wish, member of the Latinx community in public office, in a higher position in public office. Um, you know, I think it would help with the whole idea of identity politics, and also just in terms of where our population is heading. I mean, um, Hispanics, people of Hispanic and Latino descent, will hold the majority, I believe, of the people in this country. I think they said as soon as 2040, they'd be reaching close to, if not about 55% of the population will be of Hispanic or Latino descent, which makes sense. It makes a lot of sense if you look at in terms of geographically speaking of where we are. It's not like we're getting influx of whites anymore. They basically came in and killed everybody off and said this is our land, and claimed it was a new world. They discovered a new world. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Dumbasses. Um, that could be a whole conversation on its own. So anyway, besides the point, I just think it speaks a lot to identity politics. It'd be really nice if we had um, brown people in more prominent areas, and if that community could just unite a little bit more. I'm not saying I'm the guy. Like I'm probably the worst guy for that job, simply because I think there is a disconnect between me and the Latin community and the Hispanic community, and not necessarily because I wanted to, but just because the way I was raised, the way my dad being of Mexican descent, um, just the whole thing, and it's a whole story with my grandma and how she was raised and some of the bullying she had growing up, and so there's a lot that plays into that, but it's not from a lack of trying. So you know, I've always had this whole thing about having the hyphen in front of, I don't want to be considered Mexican American. I'm American, like I've always been American. Take that as you will. Um, I'm not from Mexico. I was born here, and it's not to impress white people, like not, but it's more so just like it speaks to everybody. It's like I always said, well, why don't you speak Spanish, or why don't you do this, or oh, have you been to Mexico, or blah 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 blah, and this and that. Which I get it. My name, skin color, but it's also like judge me on my character more so than my race. And so what I don't speak Spanish. A lot of people don't speak Spanish. Again, like okay, just because you're Asian, you should speak if you're from Korea, you should speak Korean, or because you're from the Middle East, you should speak Arabic. Like it only matters mostly because we're here, and especially in California, we have such a large population of Hispanic and Latinos, of Latinx. Um, it just doesn't matter to me. Not that it doesn't matter to me. I'm very proud of my background and my work, culturally speaking. But I'm I accept who I am, being the fact, and I'm not. And that's the other thing. I don't want to parade around like I'm like some. Oh well, I'm from the Hispanic community, and I serve as a representative. I am allowed to. No, I don't feel that, and I feel like there are other people more qualified to speak on those issues and to represent those communities. I just don't feel that I'm that person because I have not necessarily lived or been around those communities as much as other people have. So who am I? It's almost like those trope of movies is like the white savior. Like I'm gonna come in and be like, oh yeah, like yeah, I understand the Hispanic community. I speak for them. I am their champion. Like, no, that's not me. I'm not gonna parade and pretend to be that. Um, which I also think is more beneficial to them. So they can get the necessary help and things that they need. And but again, it's not that I'm like trying. I really want to connect with more with that community and connect with more communities in general. Um, anyways, this is way off topic and it's gone. Man, I got all over the place. So anyways, I want to talk about what happened last Tuesday. Um, Derek Chauvin, police officer that killed George Floyd, was convicted. The verdict was given as guilty um, by a jury of his peers. And to say that I was nervous leading up to the verdict is well below an understatement. Like I said, I went to go get my shot. My car is a little broken down, so my tia took me to go get the shot, and we were talking about it, and she had been following it too when we spoke up on it. And I just shared with her, some of the fear that I had um, of what would happen if it didn't go the way that it should, and for a couple reasons, right? Not necessarily that I was scared that there would be riots and all that, because yeah, you should definitely fucking riot if the government fails to do its job, and that is to protect its citizens, all of them, regardless of skin color, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of where you're from who or who you are. It should protect you if there is wrongdoing, right? I was nervous about what the backlash would be from the ignorant side of America, right? Because then they just use it to fuel such stupidity, like, well, look at how you're acting, you're rioting and looting. They're like, blah 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 blah. I'm like, yeah, jackass, that's what happens when the government fails, when a state actor, a police officer who is a government byproduct, who is literally made by, it's a government actor, it's simple as that, murders a citizen, right? Which he murdered him, right? Sat, kneeled on his neck for well over 8 minutes, and and he does that and then is free to go. Like, no, 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 no. The execution by the government on a citizen, there better be some fucking rioting, right? But the ignorance of the other side of America is dumbfounding. And not that I'm surprised. I'm old enough to know. I was, I remember the Ferguson riots. I remember Trayvon Martin, the "I Can't Breathe," where that originally came from with oh boy, what's the guy in New York? I'm blanking on his name, but hopefully you guys know. And I mean, you just look at the history of America and to know that we have been let down again and again and again and again. Um, uh, Also, like, just everything with the Black Lives Matter movement, and then met with All Lives Matter and Blue Lives Matter, stupidest shit in the world. And I always love the argument, like, all lives don't matter until Black Lives Matter. Duh, stupid. Um, so there's that, and so just the way the other half of America, and I'm going to say the other half because half of them, those motherfuckers voted for Trump, and I'm just gonna, come on, let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. If you voted for Trump, you're probably along those lines too. I don't, um, bro, like, what? How how can you support this and say it's okay? Like, blows my mind, the ignorance of these people. Um, anyway, so the trial happens, the verdict is given, tears. The emotional roller coaster that I had was insane. And that, I think, of anything, spoke more to how often we had been let down by the system, time and time and time again. I've seen people, African Americans, murdered by police officers, and nothing happens. There is no accountability whatsoever, no justice, and no peace. And to finally see that there is some accountability, that there is some level of of being able to see the justice system work for what it was designed to do, and that is to protect everyday people, not only from each other but from the government itself, from a corrupt government. And let's be honest, people, what we're dealing with here now, um it, I had this guy in my class last week. Might have been 2 weeks ago. It was 2 weeks ago. I apologize. Say that systemic racism was debunked. What? Let me give some context. My professor had asked, "Is the justice system in America fair, or does it work?" And I said no. Or I said no. I came out and said no. It doesn't work. We have seen so many cases of people who commit the same crime, and because of their certain skin color, they may get more or less of a punishment. I've seen people go off scot free. Um, just because of the color of their skin. Now keep in mind, I will get around. I want to talk about Kyle Rittenhouse and Ma'Khia Bryant. I think that's beautiful and also tragic comparison, because it's really, if it doesn't showcase the disparity between white America and black America, I don't know what does. And you need to get your shit together if you think otherwise. To sit here and to think, right, that, and I said this guy, I said, hey, you're Hispanic, I'm Hispanic. I said, hey, I'll even go as far, I'm half white. And to think that that plays any role into how my experiences with the justice system and the legal system in America is appalling. The fact that that plays any role in society, let alone in the justice system, is horrendous. So, you know, it was that moment when he was convicted as guilty by a jury of his peers. I was crying, because for the first time in my lifetime, and I couldn't even think about the people who've been alive well over, any time after my age. Thinking about, my grandma who's 70, my other grandma who's 60, all the other people that I've met in my life who are those age, who lived through 50s and 60s America, and even, in the 40s, and how awful it was back then, to finally see justice served, man. And it was such an experience, and it was almost bittersweet, because it was, it was like a celebration of, oh my god, it was, if they finally got it right. But it took this long, and it took a year of protesting and a year of us speaking out, um, for a person who was murdered, to get, and the person who murdered him to get, what he deserved. Now, there's so much I want to unpack from this. There was something we had talked about, and I had talked about it in my same class guy said systemic racism is a real idiot. I talked about, in that class, we were having a discussion over Zoom, obviously, and I talked about how, just trying to gather my thoughts. I apologize. Um, the fact that it even got to this point is wrong. The fact that a life was taken unjustly is wrong. The fact that we even had to get to the point of accountability to be had was wrong. Right? Does that make sense? Right? And I posted this. I tweeted, finally justice, finally, blah blah blah. But in my Instagram, I took a second to reflect and really think there can be no justice, for the injustice had already occurred. A man's life was taken over allegations, over something that you and I feel is unnecessary. It was an unnecessary use of force, as it was. And there's so many cases of that. Why are police trained to kill? Right? And why do they only use that force disproportionately on minorities, especially African Americans and African American males and African American women? Why? Why? Sorry, I got an update about Gavin Newsom and being recalled. Sorry, I had to. Whatever happens, happens. And no, I won't be voting for Caitlyn. Not because, hey, support LGBTQIA plus community. I love and respect you, but I will not have a fucking Kardashian in any public office. Not doing it. Not doing it. Sorry. Nope. Pass. We tried the celebrity, didn't work. So no. So no. Caitlyn, no. Caitlyn, no, no, no. Please don't. Anyways, I was talking about so often it was like we had to get to this point. So now we finally got a sort of victory, right? With there being a level of accountability. But now we need to work to where there is no need for accountability because this would never happen. That lady, Dante Wright, 13 miles, 13 miles away from where George Floyd got shot. Another African American man, young male, murdered because the police officer, who's been a police officer for 20 plus years, it might even be in the 30s, it might be even the 40s. Forgive me, but I know it's well over 20 plus years. Mistook her weapon, her gun, or her taser. I apologize. She mistook her taser for a gun, or her gun for. She mistook. Oh, sorry. I apologize. She mistook her gun for a taser. She thought what she was pulling out was her taser, and she shot this guy. That was her argument. That's something else I want to talk about. In the Derek, the police officer guy who shot George Floyd, in his case, the defense was fucking awful. The excuse, oh god, it was so dumb. Oh, they were saying some stupid shit like, oh, he was dying from the drugs, or he died from the car fumes, which is fucking stupid. Anyway, so the point is that they always have some stupid ass excuse for why they made a mistake. No, 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 no. There was no mistake. There was no mistake. You know what you were doing. No way you work on the police force for 20 plus years and you can't tell the difference between a taser and a gun. And people were like, well, in the heat of the moment and this and that. No, goddamn it, you should know. And if you can't tell the difference, you should not be a police officer. If you don't know when to use which force, you shouldn't be a police officer. And I've seen the dumbest shit from people, just the dumbest things. And I need to stay off of social media because I see the dumbest comments ever. People talking about people don't want police officers to shoot people and they're just going to get away and blah, 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 and this and that. I'm like, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. If you can't handle these situations and get out of it without killing somebody, shouldn't be a police officer. Should not be a police officer. How many of these situations could have resulted in no one dying if the right techniques were used and the right, when we talk about de-escalating a situation, how much of this could have been used without murdering somebody in cold blood? How many people have to be unarmed and murdered before we look at this and go, what the fuck? Because a lot of us for generations have been looking at this and going, what the fuck is wrong with this country? What is wrong with the police force? The people that are meant to protect us are the ones killing us. Make that make sense. Make that make sense. It doesn't. It doesn't. Kid, Chicago. 13 years old. Shot and killed. He was 13 years old. When I was 13, I was wearing a fedora. So, But imagine if they shot me in a fedora. I know a lot of people made fun of me for wearing that fucking fedora. Anyways, 13 years old, kid murdered. You can't detain a 13-year-old unarmed, by the way. You can't detain him. Oh, and by God, that one in the Ma'Khia Bryant shows that this ranges far beyond the justice system. This speaks levels to our education system. This speaks levels to our foster system. This speaks levels to the resources that we provide to low-income communities. The system is broken. Now, okay, well, hold on, take a step back. I don't believe that we should get rid of the system entirely. I do believe that the system can work. It can. I'm a true believer in that. Maybe I'm a little too optimistic, but I believe that. But god damn it, is that shit broken? And I said, reform, reform, reform. You need to reform this shit now. I'm tired of seeing people die. I'm tired of seeing people die, young kids. So just recap real quick. So, the cop who killed George Floyd, his trial was very emotional for me, and he died, and Dante Wright died, Adam Toledo, and um, I want to talk a little bit about Ma'Khia Bryant case. 16-year-old girl calls the police, calls them, says, "I need help. I need help. I feel like I'm being attacked. I need help." Police shows up. Mind you, girl had a knife in her hand, and she approached another kid. Um, her intent to stab her. I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know. Um, but it felt like it was a malicious movement, and the police officer shot her. So unpack that a bit. Regardless, regardless of what was happening in that moment, that lady did not deserve to lose her life. I feel, and I believe, and I think that you could have protected everyone in that situation without having to kill that young girl. And if you think otherwise, go to hell. Because no one deserves to lose their life. You can't shoot her in the leg. And I'll put it like this, man. I was shot in the leg. Dunzo. Done. Done. Oh, when you talk about, oh, you guys had no problem using your pellet guns and the all this other non-lethal tactics when BLM was protesting. Oh, but as soon as a black girl has a knife, you reach right for your gun. Oh, she's gonna die. Oh, she's gotta go. Who are you to make that judgment, make that call? Hey, take away the gun. Wrestle her down. Do something. You have to kill her. You go straight to killing her. Killing somebody should be the last resort. Should be the absolute last resort. And if you can't get that right, you should not be a police officer. Kyle Rittenhouse, 17-year-old, traveled to another state carrying an AR-15 rifle, shot and murdered 2 BLM protesters, wounded another one. Was walking by police holding his gun. Police officers asked him to stop. He didn't stop. What did they do? Gave him water, asked if he was okay, even after people were like, he just murdered 2 people. And the fact that he was alive in handcuffs, how many school shooters or mass shooters have been taken into custody without any sort of force used from the police? Not more than the amount of black people that were shot and murdered by police. Unarmed. You're telling me I'm safer as a white man armed after just murdering 2 people than I am than a black man unarmed just walking down the street? are pulled over for an air freshener. I'm in this country. You are better off against police as a white man who murdered 20 people and resisted arrest than you are as an African American minding their business. The George Floyd case was a small victory, and it had major um, implications in terms of where this country is heading and the progress that we've made. But I don't want you to think for 1 second that one case solves the entire issue. Black lives matter, and all lives can't matter until Black lives matter. And I'm tired of seeing people my age or younger get murdered because adults don't know how to handle situations. The guardians of peace, the protector of communities, are the number one villain in all communities right now. Over and over and over and over again. I'm tired of being tired of being tired. I see so many people talk about this is the end of America. This coming from the other half of America, ignorance. They talk about it'll be the socialist movement. It'll be the people calling for defending the police. It'll be for the people calling for for abolishing ICE. For the people asking for equality, asking for free healthcare, asking for a better education, a less expensive education. They said that's what's going to ruin this country. No, what has and will always ruin this country is the ignorance and the inability to come and bring about change when change is needed, and to move on past a very dark history and a very dark period of time because people fail to recognize that life is more worthy than your second amendment to a gun, a business, the government, a police department. A human life is worth more than that. And you can do whatever you want. You can put anything in front that you want of it because they're an immigrant, because they're African American, because they look different from me. That does not justify death. Thomas Jefferson wrote that we have certain unalienable rights, and those rights are the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Can't have the next two without protecting that first one. You need a life before you can even experience the other two. So with that, I just want to say that this country needs to change and change quickly, or else it'll just fall apart. Anyways, that's it for today's episode. Thank you all for tuning in. My name is Maximus Gomez, and I'll see you guys next week.